everything you put into your body is either medicine or poison. Like there is no in between.
Welcome to Leaders of the West, a podcast for innovators and changemakers. I'm your host, Jessie Jarvis, the founder of the West, and I'm sitting down with agriculturalists, entrepreneurs, executives, and everyone in between with the goal of digging into the strategies, mindsets, and lessons that have been crucial to the success of ag and Western. Whether you're carrying on the next generation of your family's operation, starting something from scratch, or determined to climb up the leadership ladder, we're going to inspire you to continue to dream big, growing not just you, but the future of agriculture and Western as a whole. Let's go. Good morning. Welcome to a brand new episode of the show today, and I'm really excited. So we're sitting down with Jena Oschner, but this is going to be a little bit different of an episode. So in 2025, Jena, you came on the show and we dug deep into you and your story, but especially on your journey into health and wellness. And one of the coolest things that I was looking at as I got to the end of 2025, and I'm a data nerd, so I looked back at stats, and your episode was the most popular episode of 2025. Which is no surprise to me just because of knowing you and who you are. Like, who couldn't love Jena? But the fact that for this show, it was a little bit different of an episode in the sense that we typically do talk about entrepreneurship or leadership or business, and which all of those things do apply to you and who you are in your daily life, living on the farm and having, well, I was going to say double O meats, but it's not double O meats anymore. It's
Good life beef.
Good life beef.
Yes.
And so just knowing that that piece of you is a piece of so many of our listeners. And it's also a journey that I have been in as well and haven't necessarily shared a ton about it. But we are kind of going to do that today, just a little bit of back and forth about what your journey has looked like and what mine has. You are obviously somebody who you've been doing this far longer than I have. So you are like a level 5 and I'm maybe like a level 1.25. So, but I think that that is so relatable to our listeners because I know that health and wellness is top of mind for so many people right now, and it can be very overwhelming. You and I have both been in that situation before where, especially when you were first starting, or you kind of feel like maybe you're me, you're like, okay, well, I think I'm doing good, but holy cow, there is another world that I haven't even dipped my toe into. And so I'm just really excited to get to share that with you. So to kind of kick things off for us, in case somebody hasn't gone and listened to that episode, which I would encourage you guys, hit pause on this, go back and listen to Jena's first episode on Leaders of the West. We'll make sure to link that in the show notes, but that's really going to set the stage so well for the conversation we're having today. But in case somebody has no chill and they don't want to hit pause, can you give them like the quick synopsis about who you are, your family, life on the farm, and then your journey with health and wellness?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And you are far too kind. Thank you so much for the kind words. I'm honored that my episode was the most listened to. I was surprised by it because you've had some like heavy hitter interviews on here, like some really big name people. So thank you, listeners, for tuning into my episode. I really appreciate it. I should have listened to it to remind myself everything that we talked about before today, but that's okay. So like Jessie said, my name's Jena Oschner. I farm with my husband in South Central Nebraska. I was not raised a farm girl. I actually had really big city dreams, but God humbled me when I met my husband, and I now live outside of a village, the closest village. It's not a town, has a population of 37 people. There is another town that's like the town that we claim because our town, no one's ever heard of it, obviously. And it's like 1,500 people. So the closest town of relevance is 1,500 people, and we're like 10, 12 minutes away. So rural, not big city like I thought my life would be. That's okay, though. I love it here. And the longer I'm married to my husband, the more I'm like him. And if I'm in a big city, I just like twitch because of all the people and all the concrete. My husband's always like, there's just too much concrete. I can't think in the city. But anyways, we farm commercial corn and soybeans. We have a herd of Black Angus cattle. I was actually a labor and delivery nurse by trade, and then stepped away from that a few years ago because we had started a direct-to-consumer beef business, which was Double O Beef, and we just rebranded to Good Life Beef. In Nebraska, if you've ever traveled here, where the kind of the travel slogan for Nebraska is the Good Life. And I actually always wanted to call our beef business that, but I talked myself out of it and said it needs to be the farm name, yada, yada. But Double O Farms, Double O Beef, I always have to explain. It's the word double, it's the letter O, just for marketing. It's not an easy thing to market, to make it easy and memorable and that type of thing. So we just switched to Good Life Beef, put a lot into the branding and the colors and just like a full brand look instead of just a logo that I made by myself on Illustrator. And I have no business using Illustrator because that is not, it's complicated for beginners, like Canva all the way.
Which on that note, I saw that Sweetbriar Creative, Alyssa was Walsh.
Uh-huh.
Now, what is her
Schultz.
name?
I think it's Schultz.
Yes,
Yeah.
Who has been a guest on the show, that she did all of your branding, which she is the most gifted, incredible, talented woman in creative.
You all should go look at the branding because there's a little mama cow and a little steak that's the shape of Nebraska and then a fork with 3 steaks on it. And she hand drew those. I was just like blown away. I'm like, okay.
It doesn't look like hand drawn either.
No.
And there's nothing wrong with hand drawn. I love anybody who is a creative and can do anything relatively creative, because I absolutely cannot when it comes to artistic abilities. But like, it doesn't look hand-drawn, and it is hand-drawn. It's that
very
phenomenal.
Professional. Yeah, she's very talented. So, yes, a shout out to Alyssa for sure, Sweetbriar Creative. So, like I said, as labor and delivery nurse, I stepped away to kind of pour into the beef business, and our farm was we're in a transition phase. I feel like farms and ranches, you're always transitioning. Like my in-laws were kind of ready to not do quite as much of the heavy lifting, so my husband needed a little bit more of my help. So it just made sense for me to be available for him. And then I had also been sharing online on social media and was replaced my nursing income with that. So it just made a ton of sense for me to just be home. And then this year we did another thing I said I would never do, and we started homeschooling. So I'm really home, which has been wonderful and great for our family. Our oldest, he literally just wants to farm. So it's been great for him to get to learn and work alongside his dad a lot more with that. So I was very familiar as a labor nurse with health and everything. My first degree was actually in nutrition and exercise science. I actually saw myself going to medical or PA school. And then I met my husband and we moved to the middle of nowhere. And I was like, we're just going to do an accelerated nursing program that's 30 minutes away. So I did that. So I have 2 bachelor's degrees. Don't recommend that route. But I was just sharing that because I do have a background in exercise and health. Like it's always been a part of my life. Well, long story short, I had chronic migraines that started shortly after I was hit by a drunk driver in high school. And chronic to the point of I was having 25 headache days a month, where I had to quit multiple jobs in college because I just would physically not be able to show up. I almost dropped out of college twice, but I was like, I have to persevere. The headaches were bad. This kind of went on and on and on. I would get them under control. And then I got pregnant and I'd have a headache every single day of my pregnancy. My first 2 pregnancies were terrible. Very blurry memories. And then after our second, a year and a half after, my hair was falling out, my headaches were out of control. My mental health was in shambles. It was just kind of I was kind of hitting my rock bottom, if you will. My husband and I were both we need to change something. And so we sought a functional health provider out and started seeing her and started kind of just peeling back the layers and really digging deep into why I was getting the headaches, why my hair was falling out. Our bodies were made to heal. God created us so innately and created us to heal. We just have to know how to nudge our body in the right way to heal. And we have to fix what's going wrong, not just slap a medication on it. And I vividly remember early in my migraine journey, my parents and I were desperate for any sort of answer. And I'd gone to all sorts of specialists, and the neurologist had me on 3 different meds. And I found out later that some of them were old psych meds that had off-label uses for migraines and seizures, which I was not having seizures, but my EEG, which is the brainwave scan, showed seizure activity, but common for a stressed out college student. And I was having pretty severe side effects. I was losing weight. I did not have weight to lose. And my hands and fingers were tingly. My joints were really stiff. I went to the chiropractor and he asked if I was on an antidepressant. And I was like, no. And then he looked at my med list and he's like, that actually is an old antidepressant. And it has one of the side effects is joint stiffening. Your joints feel hard and they shouldn't at your age. So I asked the neurologist, what's the plan here? I don't want to be on these meds forever. The answer to him was, if your head actually hurts that bad, a couple pills the rest of your life, it shouldn't bother you. And I was 19. And I think my mom and I were not pleased with that answer. And my mom was proud that I even asked that question. But I looking back, I feel that interaction with that neurologist probably planted a seed that years later, I started to question modern medicine a little bit. Not that it's bad, but just there is a better way. People can heal without just relying on pharmaceuticals for everything. So that was probably a longer version of my story than you bargained for today, but that in a nutshell. So I've been on this like holistic healing journey for like a little over 3 years where we've like really dug deep.
And also too, having children and your children have had their own, I don't want to call them issues, health issues. Is that what we're going to call them?
Yep.
And so there are so many elements of that. But yes, you guys definitely go back and listen to that full episode from Jena because it is just so enlightening. So I have been somebody, and I'm pretty open about this. I would say that I'm overall healthy with the exception of when I was 12, so 2002. You do the math if you want to know how old I am. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And at the time, I was the very first person in our school system to have ever been diagnosed with diabetes.
Wow.
Like they had no idea what to do. I remember for the first week of school so thankfully, I guess, to a degree, I ended up going to the hospital a couple of days after Christmas. And that's when I ended up getting my actual diagnosis, December 27th. So I never had to miss any school.
What prompted your parents to take you to the hospital?
So I had lost about 20 pounds in 2 weeks.
Oh, my word.
I was drinking a pile of water. Like they were very, very like scared for whatever it would be. They had no idea something like diabetes wasn't really on their radar. And so I remember we went into the clinic in town and they made me do a urine sample and then instantly knew what was wrong with me. They had my mom drive me to Boise. So I remember we came home to get some things and then drove to Boise. And I remember getting out of the car, like she parked in front of the ER, like in the actual parking lot. Because at that time, I mean, they weren't like, hey, get her in an ambulance and take her to Boise. They were like, you can go home, get some stuff, and then, go to the hospital. And I remember we were walking across the street and I just fell down, like about passed out. And some individual, he stopped his car, got out, helped my mom get me across the street to the hospital, to the ER. And then obviously at that point, when you have something like diabetes, they put you in ICU for a time being just because you have to be monitored at such a high level. But I remember, so I didn't miss any school because we were out on Christmas break. So I come back from Christmas break and my life has completely changed. And I remember that the school had no idea what to do. And so at that time, that was back when insulin pumps weren't necessarily a thing. And so I had to give injections. And I remember my mom had to come to school at lunch every day for the first week to give me my injection. I remember, I don't know why I find this so funny, but I remember my parents saying, Jessie, if you can give yourself an injection, you can have a sleepover. You can have as many friends over as you want to, but you've got, like, that was their bargaining tool was my mom cannot continue to come to lunch every day at school to give me my shots or like anytime my blood sugar was high, right? Like I had to do it myself. And at the time I was 12, so you can only imagine, like now it doesn't seem like that big of a deal at our ages. But long story short, I've always been very health oriented or focused just because diabetes is something.
Conscious of what you're putting into your body.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it is something that I literally have to think about every moment of the day. So and I am very well controlled and well maintained. I've obviously had birthed 2 healthy children, which is not necessarily always the case for women who have had type 1 diabetes or who do have it. And so it is something that I put a very high priority on just because you are only given one body in your life.
Yes.
And that is the body that you have to take care of. Like as silly as that saying is that your body is a temple. It truly is. And so I have been somebody who I go see my endocrinologist every 6 months. I get blood work all of the time. And this is not anything new for me, right? This has been the last 20 some years. But often I just wouldn't feel that great. But for somebody who is getting her blood work done all of the time and all of my blood, like I've never had a lab come back abnormal. Unless it's been something like if you have a CBC and you're sick or something of that nature, right? Your white blood cell count is going to be high. But I've never had any kind of abnormal labs. And so at that point, I was kind of thinking like, how can I continue to get this lab work back that shows that I am picture perfect on paper, but I don't necessarily feel picture perfect? Like, how is that even possible? That thought is kind of running through my mind and had been for a long time. And so finally, a couple of years ago, I was like, I just want to try something new. So I went to a functional doctor and they asked me what my symptoms are. They did some stool samples, things of that nature, just different tests aside from the traditional labs that I have been getting done every 6 months for the last 20 some years. And lo and behold, there are these things that I had no idea about that are not necessarily wrong, but are just present, right? And so
just not optimal. Like if you
Yes,
want to
exactly.
feel good, like you need to have optimal labs. And I do feel like a functional provider, they look at labs a lot differently and they use different values for normal than like the mainstream doctor will use.
Yes. Yeah. And that had been a whole new learning experience for me as well. So the doctor that I went to, the first functional doctor that I went to, not long after I got those results back, she actually ended up moving to a different clinic. And I didn't necessarily love that clinic as much as I thought I needed to in order to become like a true regular patient there.
Well, and you have to be invested. I've had this conversation with our provider. Like, if you're not going to take the supplements, you're not going to follow the diet recommendations, it's not worth your time and money. Like, you have to be ready and in the right mindset to like make a life change.
Yes. So I ended up going to a different clinic, one that I had kind of considered before as I was weighing my two different options. And what that came down to is just personal experience. I had a couple of friends who had gone to this other clinic and I said, well, you guys have great results, so I'm going to go there too. That provider left, and so I went somewhere else. But then she took the stool sample test and went even deeper of like, okay, well, this is, again, the result, the symptom, the why, but like, why is it happening? So I ended up doing a number of different toxin tests, which I know that you have done as well. I actually think, did you guys also do one again this spring or something of that nature relatively soon?
Yes.
Because we were comparing our results. I do remember that. But things that I would have never thought of before. And it really had just opened my eyes to how much of medicine we think we know, or why are we not getting answers? We've heard this time and time again from friends of people who have gone, to different doctors and clinics, and they're not getting the answers. They're not getting help. Their problems are not going away. And so I didn't want to continue to do the same thing and not have answers. I wanted to do something different. And I've now been on that journey for well over a year now and have felt great. But one of the other things that was just really enlightening to me, kind of going back to that type 1 diabetes thing, is, as I mentioned, in 2002, I was the very first student who had ever had diabetes in that time. Now, what is that, 23 years later?
Yeah.
I think that there have probably been close to 10 to 15 students who have had diabetes or who currently have diabetes in our school system. And a lot of people would say, well, Jessie, that's not that big of a deal. Your town has probably grown. There's more kids. My class size was 40 at the time when I graduated. Now the average class size in our school is 20. So explain to me how there is an increase in the number of people that have an autoimmune disease, especially children, and there is half the population in our school system that there once was when I was the first. And I don't know the answer to that. But that has definitely brought up a lot of red flags for me, just knowing something in our lives is causing this. Because especially when it's something like diabetes, it is not something you can just like turn a blind eye to and live with and not be aware of. Like, it's not, there are definitely other ailments out there where you can, out of sight, out of mind, or just deal with it. Diabetes is not one of those.
No, like if you're not eating correctly, you die.
Yes, exactly. So that tells me that I really truly was the first student. It's not like other people were just tougher than I am.
Right.
But that has been just very awakening to me. And again, I don't know why that is. I kind of have my own theories, but they're nothing more than that. And so...
Oh, I've got theories too.
Yeah, I want to be very mindful of how I'm living and what I'm putting in my body, what I am putting in my children's body, what I'm surrounding our family with, because I don't want them to also be part of that type of statistic. Also knowing that diabetes is one of many. Now we look at how common things are like celiac or peanut allergies. Again, I know that there are a number of students.
Allergies in general.
I know there are a number of students in our school system that have those types of ailments as well. There was nothing wrong with any kid except me when I was in school. So I think that just goes to show that things are definitely changing. And again, the 80s, the 90s, obviously we know a lot has changed in that time. Kind of, I feel like that was maybe like the dividing line of like before versus after, just as far as products and chemicals and plastics and different things. And so that has really just been very eye-opening to me.
Same. I am on the same page with you. Even I watched this documentary recently and it was really good. And they shared, which I do believe anytime you watch a documentary, it always has an angle and you really just have to watch with discernment. But they talked about kind of what you were just talking about, disease rates, chronic disease rates in children. And I don't remember the statistic specifically, but back in like, say, 80s, 90s, like our childhood, chronic disease in children, there was maybe like 10%, less than 10% of kids had a chronic disease. And now in today's children, it's like over 50%. So it is like alarming. Like the whole country should be alarmed at why our kids are so sick.
And I genuinely think a lot of people innocently say, well, that makes sense. There are more people. But again, going back to the statistic of our class sizes are half of what they were when I was in school. Like our population in our community has drastically shrunk.
Yes.
And there are more. That tells me that there is
So
something more behind this. Yes, is that
exponential.
much greater. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think too, you can look at the Amish community because they have they're a really great control group. They've really protected themselves from a lot of processed foods. They're plastics, like they don't do any vaccines. Like there's a lot of things that people like us would be exposed to that their community has never been exposed to. And their rates of any of these diseases that we've talked about are like almost non-existent.
Absolutely. And I also want to make note of this, and I know you feel the same way too, so I feel okay. Can you guys hear this rain in the background by chance?
I can. I didn't know what it was, but wow.
It is pouring outside right now, which I guess we love because it's been nice and warm, so the ground is not frozen, and hopefully it soaks in.
Yes, no kidding.
But you and I both have a very healthy relationship with healthcare. Like, if I'm going to have a heart attack, I am not going to a functional doctor. I am headed to the ER. Like, I firmly believe in modern medicine. If modern medicine did not exist, like, I would not be here. So I want to make sure that our listeners know I have no disrespect for modern medicine, for healthcare, for doctors. Some of my greatest friends in life are doctors and nurses, and I absolutely know how deeply they care about their patients, and they will literally put themselves in the negative to make sure that their patients are well taken care of. So I definitely want to make that known. I think the unfortunate part there, and I've seen this firsthand, is that doctors don't necessarily control the healthcare industry. Insurance companies control the healthcare industry. And insurance companies do not have backgrounds or educations in anything but what is necessarily going to make them money. And I've even seen that firsthand with my healthcare company, how many times I've had to appeal to get certain medications that my doctor has prescribed. If I am paying for insurance and my doctor has prescribed me something, why is my healthcare company then telling me I can't have it? They're not the doctor. So that is, I think, unfortunately, and I think the world is very aware of that healthcare industries, we are at their mercy. And I think that's one of the things that has gone so wrong with the industry. And unfortunately, aside from the government, I guess, there's nobody who can really rein that in or who has control.
Yeah. There's another layer to that, which it's not my opinion. It's a fact. You can look into it. But pharmaceutical companies also are control because they're controlling medical schools.
Yes,
actually,
exactly.
I did an episode on my podcast with my functional medicine provider, and she talked about talking with like the dean at the Cornell Medical School or something like that. Don't quote me. You can listen to the episode if you want to know for sure. But he had said, like, it's really awesome what you guys are doing in the functional medicine world. Like, it's great. And she said, well, why isn't it being taught then? And he said, we'll lose our funding. We literally can't teach it because pharmaceutical companies control medical schools. And so it's unfair to doctors and nurses, like all of the people that we love, because they truly go into medicine wanting to help people. And then it's not their fault that their schooling is, I mean, in my opinion, it's crooked. Like, it's not fair that pharmaceutical companies get to decide everything. So kind of what you were saying about modern medicine, like, yes, and my functional medicine provider will say this too. She's like, as far as like acute care goes, like you have a heart attack, you're in an accident, you have like a sudden onset of an autoimmune disease like you did, like the ERs in our country, like top of the line for acute things. When it comes to long-term health, American medicine is failing our population tremendously. Because where I have no disrespect either, but where I lose a little respect is when like modern medicine and functional medicine, any holistic approach to healing can't be friends. It's like,
yes,
we need to link arms here. We're all on the same team, that Americans are healthier, become a healthier population. Our kids aren't so sick. But it feels like if you go to a modern doctor, it's like, well, if they can't give you a medicine there's not a surgery that they can do for you, they kind of just write you off and like, well, I guess just live with it. Like it's normal. Just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal. Like they'll say it's common. A lot of people have this, yada, yada. But just because a lot of people have it doesn't mean it's okay. And that's where I get frustrated because you shouldn't, just because your patient doesn't need a medicine and you can't do surgery on them, there's other options like you and I have both experienced.
Well, and I think too, it goes back to a lot of treating a symptom versus treating the root cause. So a headache, for example, the symptom is a headache. Well, just take some Tylenol. Okay, but why am I getting the headache? And I think a lot of us kind of forget that when it comes to healthcare. Yeah, a headache is absolutely painful, but why do you all of a sudden have the headache? Is it because you're dehydrated? It because like everything in our body, we know if our shoulder hurts, the chances are the problem is not in the shoulder. It's down in your butt or your calf or somewhere else, and it's just manifesting itself in your shoulder. And so that has been very eye-opening in, again, just my journey into this. But one of the things that I think is that I had kind of always taught myself or told myself is, well, it's fine. It's in moderation. That is great in theory, Jenna, but I think you and I both know what exactly is moderation. Because I think that is something that we all kind of live by. Like, oh, well, it's fine. I'm having my one Diet Coke a day, but that's the only thing that I'm doing.
Levi and I just talked about this because, people, and I used to be the same way. We love, 80-20, everything in moderation. Yeah. But if you actually sit down and calculate 80-20, do you really want to only live 80% of your life doing the best for your body? And you're probably being a little bit generous with your 20%. Your 20% is probably closer to 40. That's been eye-opening, and something that, going back to what you said about the shoulder pain, the headache, your body whispers before it screams. So it's like if you're getting these symptoms, like your body's whispering, and then you don't want to get to the point. My body was screaming, like my hair was falling out. I was having headaches every single day. The first 3 years of my middle child's life are like completely blurry to me because I was just in fight or flight. Like my nervous system was wrecked. My body was literally screaming at me. And it's like those symptoms need to be addressed and not just masked with a medicine. Like I wanted to know what was going on, so I wanted to peel back the layers. And kind of what you said about the Diet Coke, Levi's aunt and uncle were over last night and we were talking about all these things. So this was very timely. But like we talked about how everything you put into your body is either medicine or poison. Like there is no in between. What you're consuming is either nourishing your body and helping your immune system and helping you heal, or it's doing the exact opposite and poisoning you in some way. And one thing that I really had to learn through my journey was viewing food as fuel. Like this isn't to like pleasure what I'm craving right now. This is to fuel my body, which is like an innately designed machine, and fuel it correctly so that I can live optimally and I can show up for my husband and my kids the best way that I can, and our business is the best way that I can. And it really for me all starts with what I consume and what I'm exposed to every day.
Oh, it totally does. So let's talk about some swaps that we have made over time. And when I opened the show, you are at a level 5, and probably a level 10 at this point. I'm at a level like 1. I'd like to give myself another quarter point,
a little
but
more
like
credit.
So let's, because I know that is the biggest, that's the hardest thing is when and I would say regardless of where you are in your life, like you and I have talked and you guys have recently made some other changes as well with seed oils. That wasn't necessarily on your radar when you were a 1 or a level 2, but now that you are in your journey, like you now notice that seed oils are the thing that inflame your body and you really take notice of that. But even then, it is still really hard to think like, okay, how are we going to eliminate all of this stuff when it kind of feels like we've already eliminated all the things that could be eliminated. So one of the first things that I did was I got rid of our microwave.
Oh, wow. I feel like that's a big first step.
Okay, it was. Here's how I did this though. This has been well over a year now. My husband was not on board with this, so we made a deal. We put it out in the garage. That way, if we still needed to have it or use it, it was accessible. But if it was just sitting in our kitchen unplugged, you're still going to plug it back in and use it.
Yes.
And so, and you guys, like I say this is, I am somebody who in the past I've microwaved plastic. Like
same. When I got married, Levi would cringe. He was actually crunchy before I was crunchy. but I would microwave plastic. And he was like, it's leaching into your food. I'm like, you're so dramatic. But
yeah. Like, no, I'm a plastic Tupperware girl through and through.
Yeah.
So like, if I am somebody who has made these changes, I just want to let people know if it's something you've considered, if anybody can do it, like if I can do it, anybody can. So we put our microwave in the garage. We have used it 3 times in the last like 15 months. The first one was, I think I needed to melt butter and I didn't have any butter and I was like mid recipe and I was like, oh shoot, what am I going to do? So I had to melt some butter. Then the next time it was a school project. Jet wanted to do something with popcorn. I went to the store, I bought microwavable popcorn. I get home. Wait a minute, I don't have a microwave anymore. Why did I do that? So we had to go outside to pop some popcorn for his art project. And then just recently, a couple of days ago, I've been dealing with some TMJ. And so I needed one of those, like the rice pack that you put in the microwave in order, like the heated pack. I don't know how you heat that other than using a microwave. And I really did try to, in my time of need, like mentally think about all of the ways that I could do this. And I was like, you know what? Don't worry about it.
Can you put that in the oven or will it light on fire?
I don't know. Then I was also thinking about like, could I put it in like a thing of boiling water, but then like put it in a glass
double
thing?
double broil it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I was like, you know what, Jessie, it's fine. It's going on your face, not in your body.
Yeah.
Put it in the dang microwave. So those are the 3 times though in the last well over a year that we have used the microwave. And again, that's one of those things of if you use a microwave once in your life, it's probably not that big of a deal, but every single day, multiple times a day for the hopefully 80 plus years that you're alive, that definitely weighs on a person.
Yes. Have you seen that reel where they have 2 plants in the same environment and they feed one normal water and they feed the other one microwaved water that then cools?
That was the reason I got rid of my microwave, was because of that experiment. So as Jena mentioned there, you give a plant normal water, like out of the tap. Then you give the other one water that has been microwaved, but then has cooled down. So you're not giving it hot water. It is still room temperature water for both plants. And within days, the plant that received the microwaved water dies.
It's wild. I've never tried it. Maybe we should do it for a homeschool experience. I can't. So I actually didn't get rid of my microwave, but it
Yours
broke
just
last
recently
week.
broke.
It just broke. Yeah. And I'm not going to replace it. It's also a part of our kitchen. Like it's above my stove. I can't just take it out without my kitchen looking kind of dumb.
I had one that was a countertop microwave. I will say though, because a lot of people will say like, okay, well, what have you done to replace it? So I will say I use an air fryer often. The problem with air fryers though is there are a lot of them that have Teflon for the basket. So you do have to get one that is ceramic or stainless steel.
Yes. Which one do you have?
Oh, golly. Ninja Combi.
I have the Our Place one. It looks like a cute little mini oven.
Yes.
It looks like the Easy Bake oven, but for like grown millennials. That's what it looks like.
That's what I feel like it is too.
Yes,
I use that thing every single day.
I do too. We love our air fryer. And it even has a little thing where you can put a tiny bit of water in and there's a reheat setting so your leftovers don't get dried out. They're actually better.
Yes. Yeah. So I do use, we've done away with our microwave, but again, that's what I've been using. I used an air fryer prior to getting this one. Mine was one that had a Teflon basket. So
same.
Like I got a new one in order to, again, just make good changes. I have a little list here of other things that I've written down kind of on the topic of Teflon nonstick. So I have moved over to all cast iron. With the exception of, I did still have an egg pan that was nonstick because I feel like there are certain times in life where, like, just out of absolute desperation, I needed that. Guys, I went to go cook eggs in it this morning and I looked at it and I thought, why in the heck am I doing this to myself? I put that puppy in the trash.
You did not.
So I did.
Go,
that was
Jessie.
I was like, you know what? I am just going to deal with it. I am going to Google how to better cook eggs in my cast iron.
Yeah.
Because that is my only literal sticking point with that. I've mastered a lot in my cast iron. I have not mastered eggs yet.
There's a way. If it's well seasoned and you use a good oil like tallow or bacon grease or something, it'll be fine. You can do it.
Okay, but not just any tallow. It is Farm Wives tallow.
Yes,
we
thank
only
you very
use
much
Farm
for
Wives
that.
tallow.
Farm Wife tallow all the way.
So cast iron, that has been a big one. I mentioned plastic earlier. Obviously, I was a Tupperware plastic girl through and through. I remember I would specifically buy the lunch meat that came in the plastic tub.
So you could
then
reuse
you
it?
could reuse it because they do make the best little containers. I have gone fully over to glass. Absolutely love that. I've done this well over a year now. I've not broken any of my glass containers. There are a couple of lids that are plastic, and those have broken, ironically enough, but never the glass. So, and guys, I have a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. So if we can do it, anybody can.
My 2-year-old drinks out of real glasses and uses real plates. So anybody can do it. Kids don't have to have little plastic things.
No, we worry way too much about them.
Agreed.
In that regard. And probably not enough about them in some other regards.
Yeah.
Yes, like this. So yeah, plastic. I did have some, I'm going to get this wrong, but like melamine mixing bowls, like the plastic.
Oh.
And so I moved over to stainless steel for those. Not that I really put anything hot in those, but again, that's when plastic is at its most vulnerable, is when you put hot things, cold things in plastic, not that big of a deal, right? But hot things in plastic is when it becomes an issue.
Yes.
So that has been another one, just switching mixing bowls over to stainless steel. Also, you guys, I'm very frugal. Like, I think I got my stainless steel mixing bowls at Costco. They came in one of those stacking sets. Like, a lot of these changes, again, we've made them over time. Don't do it all at once. Wait until you have a product that is empty and then make a better swap for it. It's not something we're not going to go through the pantry and throw everything in the trash. We don't do that. Okay. We're not wasteful. That's not good for the environment either. But just being mindful on that.
I had plastic strainers, so that I'm pouring boiling water into it.
Yes.
And I found a great set of 3 sizes of stainless steel strainers at Costco.
Yep, that was another one that I had to switch over as well. Same with steaming basket. Like if you're going to put broccoli or asparagus in, I had one that was like a silicone, but still, I just know, which a lot of people will say that stuff is healthy, but I think metal is the way to go when it is an option. So
just use parchment paper if you're worried about it sticking when you're baking or something.
Yes. Yeah. And I use a ton of unbleached parchment paper.
Yes.
I will still use plastic bags on occasion. So it's not to say like I still have some Ziplocs in my house, you guys. Like I am not but again, this goes back to moderation. When you think about I microwave my thing in the plastic, then I eat it with my plastic fork or like all of the things that you're doing.
And then I store it in plastic in the fridge.
I still feel okay about using a plastic Ziploc bag because I have eliminated all of the other ways. Like I am still probably by no means at an 80-20, but I was damn sure probably at about a 20-80 before I started this journey.
I even asked our functional med PA, I was like, what about Ziplocs? And she was like, I use them. You have to draw the line somewhere. Like if you're doing a lot of other things right, like you just said, we did the same kind of, all of our cookware, all of our storage, it's all like metal, glass, cast iron. But we do still have Ziploc bags too. So I'm extreme, but I'm not unreasonable.
No, and you bring up such a good point that I absolutely wanted to bring up. My functional medicine doctor, when I was chatting with her and talking about products, and she said, Jessie, in the summer, I still use deodorant with aluminum in it because that is the only thing that keeps me from sweating. Like in the other months where I'm not going to sweat as much, I'm going to use a crunchy, natural, non-aluminum deodorant. But I go back to the stuff in the months where I absolutely need it. So, and I think that's where a lot of people get overwhelmed is they think you have to be like, everything needs to get out of our lives.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be
all or
nothing.
That's not necessarily the case. There's still a ton of products that I use. I still use my NARS foundation.
Okay.
I have tried other versions and I am actively looking for something better. But for the time being, I'm also not going to pay for a product that then doesn't work. Like, what is the point of that? And I'm not using it often enough to where I am that concerned about it because I've made all of these other changes in my life. And I definitely think that is something where people do get incredibly overwhelmed is they think that they need to make all of the changes instantly and live this perfect 100% toxin-free life. There is no such thing. And that is only going to overwhelm you.
Agreed. And I was very overwhelmed when we started. Like, I remember almost being like paralyzed. Like, oh my goodness, where do I even start? Because my gut was a mess. I was sick all the time. Like I said, like the headaches, my hair falling out. Like there was a lot of things I needed to rein in on. And I had a pretty intense supplement protocol to start out with. And she had me cut gluten and dairy immediately. And that was hard. I'd been gluten-free in the past when it was like helping control my headaches for the most part, but it wasn't perfect. And I figured out later I have double copies of the MTHFR mutation. So my body cannot methylate folic acid at all. And then, like I mentioned earlier, had headaches every day of my first 2 pregnancies. Well, I was taking folic acid every day of my first 2 pregnancies, and I would get an instant headache every time I consumed or took folic acid, and it's enriched. So many things are
everything.
enriched with it. It's in everything. That one's hard to cut until you like learn the things that I've learned. Because I was gluten-free, but then I'd eat Cheerios, which are gluten-free, but they're still enriched. Some rices are still enriched. Like it was very overwhelming for me at first to take all these supplements and cut gluten and dairy and then folic acid, because that's like a whole new thing to cut since it's not perfect for gluten-free.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I wrote down here on this list is enriched products. So this is something that we have not eliminated fully, but I am definitely more mindful about when I buy things or I know this is enriched. Let me try to look for a non-enriched option first before I still pull the same thing off of the shelf. Obviously, I feel like the hardest part for a lot of people are breads and pastas. One, sourdough
and
bread.
Cereals and crackers.
Yes. So sourdough, if you obviously make it at home. If not, though, there's still a lot that are enriched. The IZZIO brand is one that doesn't have any kind of enriched ingredients or added ingredients. It is like the simple
like
water, salt, flour. Yes, like those 3. And you can find that at just about any grocery store. I know that I can find that at Albertsons. The other place that I have been so super impressed with is Grocery Outlet. Do you have a grocery outlet by you? Okay, so there is one in a town that's pretty close to us. And they have a brand, I think it's called GO Grocery Outlet.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, there you go. But any of their pastas, it is literally wheat flour. Like that is the only ingredient in any of them. So nothing that is enriched like Berea, all of those. And a lot of them like Berea, for instance, it doesn't list it in the ingredients. It lists it down below in like added vitamins and products.
Yes,
so when you read the label,
at both places.
Yeah, when you read the label, it says, oh, well, the wheat is not enriched. But then if you go down a little bit, it says added vitamins, and that's where all of that information is. So they make it very, very tricky.
They do, and it's kind of disheartening. For pasta, have you ever tried 3 Farm Daughters pasta?
No, but I've heard incredible things about it.
Yes. So I am gluten-free, but my family doesn't necessarily have to be. So I will still use their pasta for them sometimes. And it's like a direct-to-consumer business. They are wheat farmers in North Dakota, and they were kind of like us, like wanted better for their family. So they started making this pasta, like literally durum wheat, only ingredient, nothing added. It's a high fiber, I want to say it's not high protein, but there is like more protein and fiber in it than most. So that's another good option. Other things that are enriched, like cereals, crackers.
Yes.
Cereals are terrible because there's a ton of gluten-free cereals that are corn-based or something, but they're still enriched, like Rice Krispies.
I was just going to say Rice Chex.
Yes, right. All of the checks, all of them. I order a lot from Thrive Market, so there's a lot of good options on there. Costco does honestly have some pretty decent options. I was getting like a knockoff to like Reese's Puffs, if you will, or Cocoa Puffs that were cleaner and not enriched, but they do have seed oils in it. So we've more recently gotten rid of those as well. But there is a lot of options. Simple Mills is a great brand that has cookies and crackers. Siete, I love Siete stuff. That brand is super clean. Like you won't find folic acid. Most of it's dairy free. There's no seed oils.
Their dip chips are phenomenal. I also shop through Thrive Market, and that is the Partake cookies that come in a box. Those are on repeat for us. The Siete dip chips.
The Siete Mexican wedding cookies.
Oh, I haven't tried those, but I have. And that's the other thing too. If you're somebody who, I feel like grocery outlets are pretty common across America. I am super impressed with the types of products that I can find there because it's like a Costco in the sense that it's kind of random based on you never know what you're going to find. But a lot of us, we don't want to buy the thing in bulk if we've never tried it before. So you can go to somewhere like a grocery outlet. It's like Overstock. It's like the TJ Maxx of food, if you will.
Oh, funny. I've never heard of it.
There's going to be a ton of like, your traditional Best Foods mayo. But then there's also going to be a lot of things that are not as traditional. And so that's where I've found a lot of those brands just to like test it. And then I'm, okay, we're all in. Now I'm going to go buy it from Thrive, or I'm going to go get it from Costco. we were at Costco. Gosh, they haven't brought these back in a long time and it's made me so sad. But what's the Partner sourdough crackers.
Oh.
They are phenomenal. They are like a sourdough dupe for a wheat thin.
Yum.
I bought, I think, like 6 boxes. Best thing of my life. Oh my gosh. I wish you guys could see what is happening outside my window. It's literally like a hurricane, it feels like. Like,
that's wild.
I can just see the rain coming from west to east. Like, it's not falling down. It is just blowing. Oh, I feel bad for cows and horses, but they're tough enough for it.
They are. They are.
Okay, so Jena and I have had such an incredible conversation, and we know that there is so much more that we want to talk about. So we decided that we are going to break this into 2 episodes. So this felt like the right place to pause. And then next week, we are going to air another episode where we just continue to get into what all of this looks like in real life, how we have really mindfully made these decisions for ourselves and for our family. So we are going to be back next week with this conversation in part 2. I will see you guys then.
If you loved this episode, do us a favor and share it with someone else who might find just as much value in it as you did. We're on a mission to continue to grow and strengthen the future of agriculture and Western industries, and you spreading the word helps us make more of a positive impact. It also makes a big difference when you take a minute to go rate and review the show. We can't thank you enough for listening, for sharing, and for loving Ag and Western as much as we do. We'll see you back here for our next episode.